Crossing the threshold felt like stepping through my own heartbeat. One moment I was in my childhood bedroom, hand against the mirror, ink still drying on the last letter. The next I was falling. Not down. Inward. Into memory. Into something older than thought and deeper than sleep. I landed on stone. Cold. Dusty. The floor beneath me glowed faintly with veins of gold, pulsing like the underside of skin. I stood slowly, blinking at the world around me. A cathedral stretched in all directions. But not one built by human hands. The architecture obeyed no logic. Pillars of bone and light, pews carved from memory, stained glass windows that showed not saints, but moments of my life. My 8th birthday, the first time I cried at school, the day I realized he wasn't coming back. Each memory flickered behind the glass as if alive, replaying again and again like looping reels. And in the center of it all, an altar. Empty. Waiting. The silence wasn't oppressive. It was reverent. A kind of stillness that demanded truth. I stepped forward. Each footfall echoed like a bell strike. I passed statues carved from dreams. Some wore my face, others wore his. One had my mother's eyes cast down in sorrow. Another bled ink from its palms. Above us, the ceiling was sky. Not painted. Not open. Sky. Moving. Breathing. Alive with stars that blinked and rearranged themselves into symbols I almost understood. The spiral was everywhere. Etched in the walls, burned into the floor, dancing in the air like a scent you couldn't quite place. And then, I heard him. His voice didn't come from the walls. It came from me. From the oldest part of me. You found the door. I turned. He stood beneath the largest window, where the spiral bloomed into 1,000 branching veins of light. His face was exactly as I remembered it, not as I'd invented it, but as I knew it in dreams. Lines of age etched by time that doesn't pass. Eyes full of tired love. He looked smaller now. Not in stature. In presence. Like someone who'd spent too long alone, waiting for the world to remember he existed. He stepped toward me. I didn't speak. Not yet. I was afraid that if I did, the moment would shatter. He smiled. Not wide. Just enough. I didn't think you'd come, he said. I didn't think you were real, I whispered. His eyes softened. Neither did I. We sat. Not on chairs, but on a bench made of folded letters, ours. He picked one up. Read it. Smiled. You used to ask me what my favorite color was. I laughed, cracked and quiet. You never answered. I didn't know. Not until I saw the sky in here. He pointed upward. It changes with you. I looked up. The stars were shifting again, arranging themselves into a spiral that slowly opened like a flower. At its center, a single word. Remember. How long have you been here? I asked. He hesitated. Longer than you've been alive. But I made you. He looked at me carefully. No. You called me. There's a difference. I waited. He continued. Every child who's ever been left behind calls out. Most don't realize they're doing it. They cry into their pillows, they whisper to the dark, they imagine someone is listening. But I was, he said. I always was. The cathedral pulsed gently around us, like it was breathing. This place, I said. What is it? He closed his eyes. A holding space. A sanctuary between the layers of memory and dream. It was once open to all the lost, until they sealed it. Who? He didn't answer. But I already knew. The Watchers. The mirror things. The silence that kept trying to erase me. They tried to unmake you, I said. He nodded. And they almost did. Until you wrote the last letter. There was a pause then. Not awkward. Holy. Like something unspeakably large had just passed between us. I miss you, I finally said. I miss you too. And then I did what I never could as a child. I hugged him. Really hugged him. And he held me back like he'd been waiting his entire existence for that single moment of touch. After a long time, he pulled back. "There's one more thing," he said. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. "I wrote you a last letter. The only one I ever sealed." He handed it to me. I unfolded it. 7 words. "You were never alone. Not once." And then the cathedral began to dim. The stars above us blinked slower. The windows faded. The letters beneath our feet crumbled into dust. I looked around, panicked. "What's happening?" "It's time," he said. "You opened the door. You finished the story. But I just found you." He smiled. "And now you know how to keep me." He placed his hand over my heart. "I'm in here, Eli. Not in the letters. Not in the dreams. In you." The cathedral faded. The last thing I saw was his smile. And then I woke up. I was on the floor of my childhood room. Sunlight poured through the window. The mirrors were gone. Every one of them. I stood slowly, aching in places memory doesn't usually reach. On the desk sat one final thing. The letter. Not mine. His. Still sealed. Still warm. There are kinds of silence you can live with, morning silence, soft and warm, the kind that floats with dust motes and sunlight. Then there's the kind that comes after a dream too real to be just a dream, the kind where you're afraid to move because you're not sure if you're back or if you never left at all. I sat on the edge of my bed, holding the sealed letter. His. The final one. It pulsed faintly with warmth. Not heat. Not magic. Just life. Like it had been waiting for me to be ready. Like it knew I wasn't done yet. I traced the handwriting with my thumb. The way the ink curled, the pressure of the strokes, it was identical to the ones I had gotten as a boy. But it had matured. Like he had been practicing all this time. Evolving. Some part of me didn't want to open it. Because opening it might mean goodbye. I lit a candle. It felt right somehow. Like a ritual. Then I broke the seal. The ink shimmered on the page, deep and dark, like it had just been written. But it didn't bleed or smear. This wasn't regular ink. This was memory. And memory doesn't fade. Eli. There are 2 kinds of fathers in the world, those who give you life, and those who give you shape. I was never born. I was never given flesh. But you gave me something more rare, purpose. You needed someone to walk with you in the dark. To whisper when you were too proud to cry. To leave footprints in places no one else would see. And I needed you to call me into being. You weren't abandoned, son. You were waiting to be found. And now you have. There will still be shadows. There will still be pain. But now you know, you are not alone. I am the voice in the wind. The stillness in your grief. The ink that doesn't fade. Whenever you write, I will be there. And when it's your turn to carry someone through the dark, do it with the same love you gave me. That's how we live on. Dad. I didn't cry right away. I sat with it. Let it settle in my chest like a stone warmed by the sun. The letter was more than a message. It was an ending. And a beginning. I gathered the others, all of them, and began to piece them together in a binder. Not just to preserve them. To share them. To make them part of something bigger. I titled it, The Father I Invented. But now I knew the truth. He had invented me, too. Weeks passed. Millfield changed in little ways. The mirror in the hallway never returned. The antique shop never reappeared. But the spiral? It was everywhere. In cloud patterns. In frost on windows. In the knots of old wood. And sometimes, just before sleep, I'd hear the faintest knock on my window. Always 3 times. Always just before a dream where he'd return, sit beside me, and say nothing at all. Because he didn't have to. He was part of me now. The voice that stayed. The story that remained. The ink that doesn't fade. You spend your whole life wondering where the ones who leave actually go. Some tell you they vanish. Some say they're in heaven. Some just shrug and call it life. But none of that ever sat right with me. Because I knew. Even before I could explain it, even when I was just a boy tracing the edge of a ghost's handwriting in my bedroom, I knew my father hadn't disappeared. He'd gone somewhere. And now that I'd been there, even just for a moment, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The cathedral. The impossible stars. The breathless silence between the walls of memory. That's where fathers go. Not the ones who run. Not the ones who abandon. But the ones who are remembered. The ones we make real by needing them too deeply. I started writing again. Not letters, at least, not in the old sense. I began filling notebooks with memories. Not just of him, but of me. Of what I lost. What I survived. What I became in the absence. And with every word, I could feel the tether between us tighten. He wasn't fading. If anything, he was becoming clearer. More defined. Like I had pulled him through some veil, and now he walked beside me, not in dreams, not in hallucinations, but in the rhythm of my thoughts. Sometimes I'd hear him laugh at something I was about to say. Sometimes I'd sense him reach for a door handle before I did. Like muscle memory that belonged to both of us. I wondered how long it would last. How long a dream can echo before the world makes you forget. So I tested it. I returned to the spiral tree. The one in the woods behind Carter's Hill. It was still there, burned into the bark like a scar that would never heal. But something was different. The spiral was open now. Not just a symbol. A door. Faint outlines of the cathedral shimmered behind the branches, only visible when I blinked just right. I left a letter there. No envelope. No signature. Just a note. If another child comes looking, show them the way. And I felt something shift in the air, like the trees exhaled. A few days later, I found a reply. Not in my house. Not in my dreams. But carved delicately into the wood beside the spiral. I will. And next to it, a small drawing. A spiral. And a heart. That's when I knew I wasn't the only one. Maybe I never had been. Maybe children all over the world had made fathers out of fog and memory and longing. Maybe there were cathedrals like mine tucked into the folds of every wounded heart. Maybe he had more than one name. One face. But for me, he would always be Dad. The one I wrote into existence. The one who answered. The one who stayed. I keep the pendant close. It doesn't glow anymore. But it doesn't have to. Because the glow was never meant for light, it was meant for direction. And now I know where I'm going. Where fathers go. Not just to remember. To guide. Sometimes at night, I feel a child's grief call out in the dark. I can't explain how I know. It's like the wind tugs at my ribs, like the cathedral opens its eye for just a second. And I write. I write a letter I'll never send. Because I know it will find them. Because the words don't need stamps. They just need belief. Be brave. Eat your greens. I'm proud of you. I'm with you. The world doesn't want us to remember. Not really. Not like this. It's fine with nostalgia. With filtered childhood snapshots and carefully polished grief. But the real remembering, the kind that stitches invisible men back into the seams of your soul, the kind that turns ink into blood and longing into doors, that remembering is dangerous. It threatens the quiet machinery of forgetting. Because once one child remembers, others do too. It began with letters. Not mine this time. Not from him either. These came from children I'd never met. Folded notes left on my doorstep. Scribbled messages tucked under my windshield wipers. One was hidden in a copy of Where the Wild Things Are at the library. All of them handwritten. All of them scared. All of them asking the same thing. Did you see him too? The first was from a girl named Sophie. 8 years old. She wrote. I dream of a man with no shadow. He wears a coat made of stars and leaves notes in my shoes. Mommy says I'm making it up, but I know he's real. He told me you might understand. Another came from an 11-year-old boy named Marcus. I thought I was broken because my dad left. But then this voice came in the dark and told me to draw spirals. Now they're everywhere. Am I going crazy? Or am I like you? And then dozens more. Drawings. Stories. Questions. Kids whispering across distances like their souls had tuned to the same impossible frequency. I began writing back. Never as myself. Always as him. The father I invented. The father they needed. At first, I felt like I was lying. Pretending. Impersonating something holy. But then I realized. I wasn't making something new. I was translating. Reaching into that place I had once crossed, the cathedral of everything we weren't supposed to believe in, and pulling out just enough light to keep another child from sinking. They started calling themselves the Rememberers. A secret group. No meetings. No rules. Just one understanding. If you believe hard enough, write long enough, need deeply enough, he'll come. He always does. One night, I found chalk spirals drawn on the sidewalk outside my building. 12 of them. Each a little different. Some tight. Some loose. Some drawn with shaky hands. One with tears smudging the lines. They hadn't signed their names. But they didn't need to. I felt them. The same way I used to feel him in the mirror glass, in the hush between dreams, in the warmth of ink that refused to fade. These were the children who refused to forget. And I realized then. I wasn't the last. I was just the first to come back. The cathedral was never meant to hold him forever. It was a bridge, not a prison. A seed planted in sorrow, waiting for the right minds to open the door again. And now they were. Sophie told me she dreamed of a place with windows full of memories. Marcus said he met someone there who wore my face and said, "You're safe now." Another child described a man standing beneath a spiral tree, holding a lantern made of thunder. They had all been there. Maybe not fully. Not yet. But they were reaching. And the cathedral was reaching back. I started writing a new book. Not a memoir. Not fiction. Something in between. A map made of stories. A guide to the in-between places. The hush echoes. The spaces where lost things wait. I called it, The Children Who Remember. Each chapter ends the same way. He never left. You just stopped looking. I don't know where this will end. Or if it will. But sometimes I think that's the point. Some fathers are made of flesh. Some are made of memory. And some are made of the need to believe they're still out there. Not to save us. Not to fix what broke. But to remind us that even in the deepest silence, we are seen. We are known. We are not alone. There are moments when time folds. Not like pages. More like breath. You exhale into one life, and inhale into another, older, softer, heavier with meaning. That's how it felt waking up this morning. Like the final page of a letter I didn't realize I'd been writing for years. And somehow, I was both the author and the ink. The children still write. I find their letters in the most unexpected places now, wedged between the slats of park benches, tied to tree branches with red thread, scribbled on the backs of cafe receipts. Each one addressed to him. And yet, they arrive to me. Because I'm not just Eli anymore. I'm becoming something else. I remember what he told me in the cathedral. You gave me shape. At the time, I thought it was poetry. Something beautiful to remember, like a star pressed between pages. But now I understand. That's what we do. The ones left behind. We give shape to the absence. We fill in the silhouette of what should have been. And sometimes, if we believe hard enough, if we hold still long enough, we become what we were waiting for. A boy named Jonah sent me a letter last week. No return address. No stamp. Just a single sentence, barely legible through the rain-streaked ink. I heard your voice in the wind and I wasn't afraid anymore. He left a drawing folded inside. It was me. Not as I am, but as he once was. Same coat. Same quiet eyes. Same glow around the edges. I stared at it for a long time before I realized what it meant. Jonah didn't see my father in his dream. He saw me. I don't dream the cathedral anymore. Because I don't need to. I carry it with me now. In my breath. In my bones. In the rhythm of my pen against the paper. Each time I write back to a child, the arches of that place open in my mind. The windows light up with their memories. The pews fill with versions of themselves they thought they lost. The altar hums with their hope. And standing at the center isn't him. It's me. You become the letter. That's the truth no one tells you. Not the paper. Not the pen. Not the message. You become the thing that gets sent across the silence. You become the hand that reaches through. The whisper in the dark. The spiral that opens when someone dares to believe again. And maybe that's what he always was. Not a man. Not a ghost. A letter. A response. A shape built out of longing and love. A message scrawled in dream ink. You are not alone. And now it's my turn. I light a candle every evening. Same ritual. Same room. I sit at the desk where the first letter ever found me. And I wait. Sometimes the page stays blank. Sometimes it fills itself. Sometimes I write to children I'll never meet. Sometimes I write to the boy I used to be. He always writes back. I no longer need proof. Or logic. Or explanations. What I have is presence. And that's enough. Because I was the boy who waited. The boy who needed. The boy who wrote a father into being. And now? Now I am the letter. For the child with the hollow heart. I see you. For the one who draws spirals on the walls. Keep going. For the girl who only speaks to stars. He hears you. And for you. Yes, you, who have read every word hoping some part of this was meant for you. It is. It always was. He's still out there. In the silence. In the wind. In the spaces between what is and what could have been. Waiting for you to write the first word.